Hi, today we're going to look at why this year, in 2020, we've added so many games to our curriculum. Why the sudden interest and why the sudden emphasis on games. Pearl, why don't you tell us a little bit?
So the distinction is that multiplayer games have some real extensive benefits that single-player games do not, and covering a wide range of areas. The first one we're going to look at is problem solving. Do you want to tell us a little bit about problem solving?
Well, I think that's the more natural one. People figure out, okay, well, you're playing a game and you're, regardless of what game, you have a goal and you're trying to get there. So that is going to be your more natural emphasis, as you're saying, okay, I want to accomplish this goal.
And these are not games of chance. These are strategy games where throughout the grades at different levels, you're really having to engage your brain and say, how do I win?
How do I get there? I think your distinction between game of chance and game of logic or skill is a good one, because games of chance, shoots and ladders is your classic one. It just goes nowhere fast.
Yeah.
And the ones that we are emphasizing in our curriculum this year are ones that we're actually going to engage the brain. It's just not going to float through to get where you need to go.
And for the most part, with, some variation between the grades, it's one that the parents are not going to find so babyish, so easy, that there's no competition between them and their child. We've tried to avoid the games where there's such a discrepancy in skill level that you're going to hate playing the game.
Yeah, that you want to
be challenged too.
You want to be on this level playing field.
Yeah.
Another part is overcoming challenges and trying to find alternatives to the obstacles. Classic is chess, where you can only move certain ways in certain aspects. But what are some other ones along the same line?
So this can be story-based games where you hit an obstacle in the story. Basically, any two-player strategy game, you're going to hit an unexpected, whoops, didn't know they were going to do that.
Right.
And that is a good skill to be practicing in a somewhat controlled environment before you get out into real life, where, shockingly enough, the exact same thing happens, and you have to overcome obstacles and reevaluate your options on the go.
What are some other things?
Another aspect is focus. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, obviously, you are not going to win if your mind is on your phone, or what's happening outside, or whatever. You need to be attentive to what your opponent is doing, and then what are your alternatives to do. So focus is pretty key.
Now, just to clarify, it doesn't mean that we've gone away from single-player games.
No.
Those still have tremendous benefits, mostly by making you work it through in your own mind until you've reached the conclusion. But we've added multiplayer games.
And we've made a list here of why we've done that.
Exactly.
And again, to clarify, the single-player games will overlap some of these.
True.
Things like problem solving, brain function, overcoming challenges, evaluating alternatives. Those are all going to be in our single-player games. But what we are seeing in multiplayer games is a unique opportunity to address the social, emotional skills that children need, that we all need, and in a controlled setting. So let's talk about that a little bit more. What are we talking about here?
Well, at the very young ages, you as the parent are playing along with your child, and you are modeling how to lose graciously, how to win graciously. And that is a hard skill. And if you don't learn it when you're young, then when you're playing the games with the older students, same thing. You're modeling, you're practicing, winning and losing.
And we've all seen the adults who lose their temper playing sports. They've never really learned how to lose graciously.
Right.
So this is not what we want for our children. We want them to know that they will lose at times and they will win at times. And how do you address that?
And it's not just the winning or losing, it's the holistic, how do I manage my emotions under stress?
Exactly. We're also talking about how do we, the simple things, waiting, taking turns. As you know, that's not an easy skill for especially the younger set. They don't want to wait. But this gives you that opportunity to practice it. In a lot of ways, games give you the opportunity to push the buttons of the child who is lacking in some of these social, emotional skills. What else?
So it's dealing with basically the real life skills that your child will need as an older child and as an adult to say, I am overcoming challenges. I am dealing with frustration. I am letting someone else succeed, or I am learning how to succeed with grace.
Right.
All in a controlled environment where you can fail at practicing those things and say, oh, I need to do better. I need to control my emotions.
Exactly. And the controlled environment is also really a good situation, not only for the young child, but for children with special needs, particularly on autism, because now you set up a very, again, controlled environment. They know the rules, they know the outcome, they know the goal, and now they're able to practice and not have this, wondering, what do I do? What should my response be? How should my behavior be? No, you fence that in. Once they can do that successfully, then they can step out and do it and replicate it in other situations.
And not only that, but in a related way, games can help teach your children how to interact with peers. Whether it's because of autism or because of any number of reasons that your child struggles to begin that engagement with their peers.
Right.
The games give you a very structured environment to begin to develop those skills.
Exactly. In the same way, games give you also an opportunity to reconnect. For an older child who may be drifting away from family relationships, it pulls them back in, and it gives you an opportunity to also talk about things of the day as the game progresses. It's just it can be a real good connection time for kids. It
can be, and that competitive aspect, that competitive spirit really does help build relationships. And we emphasize for the older children independent learning. So in a lot of ways, we want the parent to be stepping back from the teaching role.
Right.
So this gives you another way to still connect during your school time or at other times to say,
we're still family.
We're still family.
Right, right. Is there anything else?
Well, that's not only true for the teenagers, it's even true for the very young children. When you are a parent of young kids, you do a lot of monitoring, a lot of supervising. You may even play with them. This gives you a structured way to build an interaction that you wouldn't have had without that.
Right. With a lot of laughter and a lot of fun.
Exactly.
Where, as you're saying, in most interactions, it's going to stop that. Go over here, do this. And this is a more fun, playful way to engage.
Exactly. Another aspect that kind of ties into the emotional intelligence is coping with the unexpected, especially when the unexpected is someone else's choice. So the game didn't go the way you thought it would because somebody did something you didn't know they were going to do. That's a challenging skill to learn.
Right.
And it's a skill everyone needs for navigating life. So again, it's a controlled environment for learning how to cope with what other people do that you didn't think they were going to do, you didn't want them to do.
And you're disappointed that they did it.
Yes.
Yes.
Another benefit of many multiplayer games is the learning that happens in a very relaxed way. So most of the games and most of the multiplayer games in our curriculum are logic or strategy based.
Right.
But we do have a few in there that are knowledge based. So whether it's addition and subtraction, whether it's multiplication, spelling, there's a couple of games in there that kind of tuck in the learning in a very relaxed environment where you don't have to feel like you're drudgery doing another page. It's actually fun.
And some kids, flashcards, they freeze on. But in a game, it's more conducive for their learning. And it depends on the child, but most children learn better through game.
Well, and not only that, games give you the opportunity to make a mistake and correct it together, whereas with a flashcard or a worksheet, you're either right or you're wrong. But you're doing a game with your parent, they can say, no, that math doesn't line up. I think you need to put in this instead.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the final thing that comes through with games is language development. And we particularly see it for the younger children. We've done a number of games this year that are more story-based. And we've seen it with our own crew where you begin a story or you tell a story and the youngest one in the group then feels like he can top that. And he's motivated to incorporate more language skills to do that. And so again, language is another aspect that games will encourage. I think that's it. I think there's a lot more that can be said for the value of games, but that's in a nutshell why we're doing it this year. Thank you.